Small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. These are the words of Jesus with regard to salvation, a matter of eternal implications. Someone who knows absolutely nothing about Christianity might read these words and assume that the religion of those who profess to follow Christ is a difficult one, filled with laws to observe, vices to abstain from, and obligations to fulfill. They may even envision Christians living in a state of perpetual anxiety, always concerned about their salvation. However, in reality, the opposite is true. Christianity is, perhaps, one of the easiest religions to follow, and Christians seem assured of their salvation. Christianity, as practiced by a billion people around the world, teaches that salvation is something that can be very easily attained. This is so because in Christianity, the supposed crucifixion of Jesus was a sacrifice in which Jesus willingly took on the sins of humanity upon himself. Those who accept the sacrifice of Jesus are cleansed of their sins and granted salvation. Furthermore, Christianity doesn't impose anything on its followers. When it comes to matters of religion, Christians aren't obligated to follow specific rules. They do not have to abstain from anything, nor do they have any obligations to fulfill. In fact, some Christians go so far as to say that the performance of good deeds have no impact on salvation. Even the acts of worship and prayer are subject to individual preferences. While the Bible recommends prayer, it does not mandate or regulate it. Therefore, it does not matter whether a Christian prays multiple times a day or doesn't pray at all, nor does it matter how a Christian prays. As long as they hold the correct beliefs about Jesus that we discussed earlier, they are guaranteed salvation. This disorganized and unstructured nature of Christianity can only be described as spiritual lawlessness. And it is this lawlessness that has weakened Christianity. Anyone who has a rudimentary understanding of the Bible and access to a building can start his own church. This has resulted in the appearance of strange churches that are completely devoid of any seriousness or even a hint of devotion. In some of these churches, worship takes on the form of a rock music concert, featuring a live band on a stage accompanied by amplifiers, stage lights, and even dancing. In other churches, the sermons resemble motivational speeches that focus on the accumulation of material wealth. Unsurprisingly, the leaders of these churches are themselves multimillionaires and lead lives of luxury and opulence. The lawless nature of Christianity has, in recent times, given rise to an extraordinary phenomenon that has never been witnessed in all of Christian history: LGBT churches where openly LGBT people lead services and even organize drag shows. Some Christians argue that these types of churches are deviant in nature and do not represent authentic Christianity. But, it raises the question as to why this should be the case. Because if the sole condition for salvation is having the right beliefs concerning Christ, his essence, and his sacrifice, then the manner in which individual Christians conduct their daily lives or worship should hold no significance. And consequently, all Christians, irrespective of their individual practices or approaches, are equally saved and worthy of heaven. So, either the belief in Christ's atoning sacrifice guarantees salvation, or it doesn't. Given that many churches today provide entertainment and music shows, emphasize materialism, and promote LGBT values, did this lead to an increase in the number of people embracing Christianity? Surprisingly, the answer is no. Non-believers have no compelling reason to convert to Christianity, as everything offered by the new church could readily be found abundantly in the secular world. So not only did the church fail to attract new followers, but it also ended up distorting the essence of the original message it was supposed to teach. Moving on, this spiritual lawlessness not only diluted Christianity in a theological sense, but also contributed to the deterioration of the broader society in which the church operated, the society that Christians originally built and sustained for generations. Let me explain. Typically, the identity of a nation is almost always influenced by its dominant religion, which results in the values of that religion being reflected in the prevailing culture, norms, and laws. In a society where religiosity and piety are upheld as ideals, irreligion and decadence do not thrive. And inversely, the same religiosity and piety cannot flourish in a society where sin is widespread and normalized. In the past, when times were simpler, the wealthy and technologically advanced Western nations were largely characterized by their Christian majority. Christianity had the power to influence culture and society. Even though Christianity didn't have strict and rigid laws that governed every aspect of life, its ethics and morality had a significant influence on the surrounding culture, leading to the prevalence of values such as modesty, decency, and religiosity. However, things were about to change drastically. Over the next few decades, for a variety of reasons, Western Christian societies underwent a gradual decline in moral values and departed from their traditional Christian roots. It was almost as if there was an invisible and hostile cultural force at work, trying to corrode everything the Christians had built, while Christianity itself appeared powerless against it. Without well-defined religious laws and boundaries, Christianity was unable to resist or control the changes taking place in the world outside. The pattern was that if something became socially acceptable, it was only a matter of time before Christians either embraced it, adapted to it, or rationalized it. This holds true for things like immodesty, lewdness, materialism and lifestyles that the church once identified as sinful. Although there was some resistance, the church eventually started to accommodate the strange new ideas and lifestyles that gained acceptance in mainstream society. Gradually, it succumbed to these changes, resulting in Christianity becoming a compromised and heavily diluted version of its former self. In the end, the church, as a social institution, had lost its ability to meaningfully influence cultural norms. Christianity had transitioned from being the primary cultural influencer merely a few decades ago, to just another institution promoting secular ideas and concepts. This is where we are today. Although Christianity continues to be practiced by the majority of people in the West, it has been severely weakened and is pretty much at the mercy of other cultural forces. Despite having numerical strength, Christians have lost control over their own countries that their ancestors built. Everything that used to be Christian is now in a state of decay, and it is Christianity, with its lawlessness and easy salvation theology, that is ultimately responsible for the weakening of Christianity and the corruption of Christian society.